The UK is currently in the middle of an energy crisis. Prices are sky high. But did you know that the next crisis is lurking just around the corner? And this could push your bills up to record levels. The UK now has billions of pounds of unpaid energy bills. In fact, depending on which figures you look at, household energy debt could soon exceed £7 billion. And Ofgem has recently announced plans to write off about £500 million of that debt. Now, at first glance, that sounds like good news. But the more you look into this story, the more you realise something rather uncomfortable. Now, I don't think anybody has a realistic plan of how this debt ever gets repaid. And even if you write off £500 million of it, what happens to the other £6.5 billion? Today, we're going to take a closer look and see what can be done. The first thing to understand is the debt didn't appear because millions of people suddenly decided on a Friday afternoon to stop paying their bills. The debt explosion coincided with previous energy crises. Wholesale gas prices surged, electricity prices followed, standing charges went up because reasons, and many households saw their energy debts double or even triple in a very short space of time. Now, for some households, the maths simply stopped working. People still need to heat their homes, they still need hot water, they still need to cook meals and keep the lights on, but their bills had become unaffordable. The result was completely predictable. Debt started to build, and that debt was continually growing and has been ever since. Ofgem's answer is a debt relief scheme. The proposal would write off around £500 million of debt for some of the most vulnerable households. Now, before anybody jumps in the comments, let me be clear. I'm not criticising people who are struggling. If you genuinely can't afford your energy bills, then something has gone wrong long before that debt arrives. And here's the problem. £500 million sounds like a huge number. But you compare it to the total debt pile because if total energy debt reaches £7 billion, then we're talking about fixing a relatively small part of a much, much bigger problem. And that raises a very obvious next question. What happens to the next £6.5 billion? Let's look at a simple example. Imagine a household currently paying £180 a month for energy. Now imagine they've accumulated £3,000 of debt. A supplier might put them on a repayment plan, maybe £50 a month, maybe £75 a month, and in most cases, even more. Suddenly, their monthly payment isn't £180 anymore, it's £230, £250, or even higher. And that's where the whole debate falls apart. Because if somebody couldn't afford £180 for energy, how exactly are they supposed to afford £255 or £300 a month? The maths simply doesn't work. Now, this isn't a question of willingness to pay, it's a question of ability. Many households genuinely do not have the money. And this is where things get really interesting, because every proposed solution ultimately means somebody is taking a hit. One option is that other energy customers pay, you and me. The cost gets added onto our bills. But that makes energy less affordable for everyone else. Another option is taxpayers pay, but that's still the public paying. It's just happening through taxation rather than through energy bills. Others argue suppliers should absorb the cost, but suppliers will eventually try and recover those losses through future pricing updates. Some argue generators should pay through windfall taxes, but that money ultimately comes from somewhere too. It stifles future investments, lowers future returns, hampers future projects, Every road seems to lead back to the same place. Somebody has to absorb the loss. And that brings me to what I think is the real issue. We've spent years talking about how to recover this debt, but maybe we're asking the wrong question. Should we even expect all of this debt to be recovered? Because let's be honest, if somebody owes thousands of pounds and is already struggling to pay today's bills, there's a reasonable chance a lot of that money is never coming back. Now, businesses write off bad debt all the time. Banks write off bad debt. Yet somehow we're pretending that billions of pounds of energy debt will magically be repaid at some point in the future. Maybe that's realistic, maybe it isn't. But it's a question we should at least be asking. Now, this is where all the financiers out there are going to start screaming at me. Because the debt itself isn't the problem. The debt is evidence of a problem. It tells us that millions of households are paying more for energy than they can realistically afford. So instead of asking who should pay the debt, maybe we should ask why the debt exists at all. Why are energy costs still so high? Why are standing charges increasing every single quarter? Why are so many households struggling to keep up? And why was there no mechanism to prevent this debt from accumulating in the first place? Those are the questions that really matter. Because if we don't fix those problems, then today's debt write-off simply becomes tomorrow's debt crisis. And this is where I'd like your help, because I've spent a lot of time looking into this story. And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. Make bill payers pay and energy becomes less affordable. Make taxpayers pay and it's still the public footing the bill. Make suppliers pay and they look for ways to recover the costs from other bill payers. Make generators pay and there may be consequences elsewhere when investment doesn't happen into the grid. Every solution seems to create another problem. So I'm genuinely interested in your ideas. If you were the Energy Secretary and tomorrow morning, how would you solve a £7 billion energy debt problem? Who should pay? Should the debt be written off? Should it be recovered? And how do we stop it from happening again? Let me know down in the comments, because I think this is one of the most important conversations in the UK energy right now. And as always, thanks for watching. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you back here real soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.